Hey Kavya, how are you doing today?
Hey, Vijeth. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too. Thank you for joining this. What do we call this? Do we call this a podcast or do we call this a show? But yeah, thank you so much for joining this talk show.
Super excited. Super excited for this.
And for those who are watching this for the first time, I would like to tell them that this is a new show we are starting. We call this Sales Adda, right? So where me and Kavya to tap on a lot of important topics in the SaaS sales or B2B selling, right? Kavya has been a seasoned closer, seasoned SDR as well. So I think she'll have a lot of insights to share with us through this show, right? So
Hope
Kavya,
so.
so before we start, Kavya, what do you think will be some of the outcomes or some of the tips which our audience can get through this show? What is on your mind?
What the objective that's on my mind is that we have a lot of podcasts of people in the US and in the UK, trying to unlock sales
Mm-hmm.
as a profession, and we don't have that in the country. Indian buyers are very different from any other buyers in any other part of the world,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's what I'm trying to unlock here. And it's great
Okay.
that we got in touch and we sort of have the same vision of how we can give back to the sales community. And I
Mm-hmm.
think this is, why this collaboration is very exciting.
I'm excited as well for this collaboration. And yeah, today it's the first episode of the talk show, that we're having here. And I think we'll try to cover prospecting today.
Yes, I think that's a good start. That's
Mm-hmm.
typically how sales actually starts. And then, we'll slowly and eventually cover all the other topics and episodes to come. So yes, I think prospecting should be a good start.
Okay, great. So in my experience, right, I have been into B2C sales
Hmm.
and I've been into B2B sales as well. For me, prospecting has always been an important segment
Yeah,
because I feel if you prospect well, rest of the things are taken care because rest all are processes, right,
correct,
which has to be done.
correct,
So even if we take example of the B2B space, right, there are SDRs, then there are account executives, then there are account managers as well who would do their own prospecting.
correct.
So do you think the prospecting as a segment is different for SDRs and AEs or AMs? Is it different or it's all the same?
I think the end objective is, of course, the same, right? But the
Mm-hmm.
approach that I have seen, in my experience from when I was an SDR versus to when I became a full stack AE was very different. And
Mm-hmm.
I think the difference lies in how involved are you with the process. So typically, when I've trained SDRs as well, right, whose objectives have been to set a couple of number of meetings, to have number of
Mm-hmm.
qualified meetings for their respective AEs. The difference where I saw in their performance was when they started upskilling on the job. So
Hmm.
you think of an SDR who's been told, कि अच्छा, this is your target market, this is your ICP, this is your data sheet. And that's when, you start collecting data and start making those, outbound calls or emails or LinkedIn outreach.
Mm-hmm.
Versus somebody that I sit next to me and tell them that, observe and shadow my demo calls. First, before you start prospecting, you need to understand whom should you be reaching out to. There
Hmm.
is their is our value proposition something that they would need? Is our
Mm-hmm.
product something that would work for them? Because at the end of the day, salespeople are business people. You're not just
Yeah.
bringing business to the company that you're working for. You're also working on the P&L of the company that you're wanting to sell to. Right.
Hmm.
So it's very important to also understand how those conversations with the AEs goes. Right. And that's
Yeah.
when I've seen a major difference in their approach to prospecting. That also makes them understand whom should be the ICP, what sort of data should I actually work on. If I'm
Hmm.
selling an AI video automation product, should I be reaching out to the marketing head who's the end decision maker? Maybe he may or may not want to listen to this conversation. Or should
Mm-hmm.
I just reach out to the content marketing head first, see if there's a value that he finds in the product, and then, the
Mm-hmm.
AE goes ahead and
Yeah.
has a conversation with the marketing head. So I think this is where the shift is very important. A
Mm-hmm.
seasoned SDR should be prospecting like a seasoned AE.
Okay. Yeah, I was about to ask you that. So what would be the difference between like a newbie, right, a rookie,
Yeah.
and a very seasoned SDR in terms of prospecting. So you said that a seasoned SDR is almost like an AE. That's how he or she should prospect. So could you please elaborate on that, on the seasoned SDR prospecting?
Yeah, I think a lot of stress needs to go on their onboarding period and their ramp up period. Now,
Mm-hmm.
startups are brutal, right? Startups
Yeah.
में क्या होता है, you get an SDR on board. Day two, you tell them कि you have to make 100 calls. For
Yeah.
what? This is a new person. It could be a fresher. It could be somebody with maybe 1 or 2 years of experience. They could have probably aged in their previous company, or they could
Mm-hmm.
be very excited, very confident, very smart chap wanting to, make his or her name in the SaaS sales industry. But if you really don't
Yeah.
tell them what needs to be done or what is the bigger picture, how do you expect them to plan and get those results? I have seen SDRs who've been given targets of 100 calls to maybe get like 6 meetings at the end of the day.
Okay.
SDRs that have trained with me have just made 40 calls and gotten 6 meetings at the end of the day,
Hmm.
right? So the idea from turning a rookie to a seasoned SDR is to show them the bigger picture in the very beginning.
Hmm.
That, hey, you know what? We need 6 meetings because we need an X number of closures by the end of the month or the end of the quarter because
Mm-hmm.
we need to reach to a certain ARR by the end of this financial year,
Yeah.
right? So make them feel involved. Like if there is a lack of sense of belongingness from the get go, those
Hmm.
numbers of, like 100 calls a day, like why are we even tracking input metrics? you know and
Yeah.
that's the philosophy that I come with. I think in sales, numbers are important, your output metrics are important, and it's only
Mm-hmm.
when there is a consistent decline in output metrics is when you go back to figure out what the problem was, not to
Hmm.
just give random numbers to an SDR who's already very overwhelmed with these numbers, to make them
Hmm.
understand that okay, you're an important part of this company because you're going to be bringing this kind of business if you do X, Y.
Hmm. Yeah. The why parameter, right? I think most of them fail to do that. I think SDRs don't even know why they are doing what they're doing.
Correct? And they're
Yeah.
absolutely lost, and I feel for them because
Yeah.
they sit in these meetings with, and in a startup, founders are a part of sales meetings, if not
Hmm.
daily, but for sure weekly.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, यार तुमने ये क्यों किया है और तुमने ये
Hmm.
क्यों नहीं किया है और ये numbers कहाँ जा रहे हैं? It's just too much drama for nothing. But if you want to scale your
Yeah.
company, you need to invest in your people. And
Hmm.
that's where I come. That's the school of thought that I come from.
Great. Great. So yeah, I mean, let's try to break down prospecting a bit more in depth, right? So okay, let's start here. So what is important to know before you start prospecting? Let's start from there.
Correct. I think number one, what is your problem? What is your product solving as a problem?
Mm-hmm.
I think for an SDR, don't bombard them with a lot of information, but the number one problem that your product is solving,
Mm-hmm.
what is the ROI that it's creating for different industries, right?
Okay.
And to also understand what your competition is, right? So if you understand what is the problem that your product is solving, you will eventually understand what is the value proposition that you can incorporate in your outreach campaigns as number one, as a clickbait for somebody to actually reach out to you and be like, hey, you know what? I want to explore this,
Yeah.
right? So first of all, of course, top tier product knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Second is understanding your ICP, right?
Got it.
So I would want my SDRs to think from the lens of, if an SDR has a target of 20 qualified meetings in a month, the
Mm-hmm.
person that they're trying to reach out to is also operating on a certain target for that particular month,
Yeah.
right? So when you're trying to understand your ICP, you also need to understand, okay, is this something that would make his or her life better as a professional if I'm
Yeah.
reaching out to them?
Yeah.
Right? So understanding ICP along with the product is extremely, extremely important. And
Mm-hmm.
thirdly is what industry is the product a good fit in,
Hmm.
right? So for example, I think let's just take an AI video automation product, since AI is big at at this point of time, it's going to sound topical as well. For an
Yeah.
AI automation product, there are two people that I can think of from the top of my head to reach out to. One is the
Mm-hmm.
marketing retention department of any industry. One is the
Mm-hmm.
content creation department of an industry. And
Yeah.
then I would want to think of कि कहाँ पे ये AI video generation tool use हो सकता है.
Hmm.
Banks, NBFCs, right? Everything that I see on my Instagram is basically like a prospecting Bible
Yeah.
over my
Yeah.
YouTube, right? So that's where I start from. Okay, if I want to start with data collection, this is my starting point, and I'm going to keep building on that.
Okay. Got that. No, that absolutely makes sense. I think there's one thing which is on my mind is, let's say you're a beginner, right? Let's say you're an SDR and you start in a company. The easiest way to get into that world of your prospect would be, first thing, I think you can catch hold of your AE,
Yeah,
take his or her help to get a customer on call with you
correct,
for a 30 minutes or 45 minutes.
correct.
And you kind of do an interview with that customer, trying to understand what value your product brought, trying to know what were those surprise elements in your product which they didn't know it existed, but it is actually helping them, because this can
True,
act as a differentiator,
true.
right?
Yeah,
And also know their goals as well. What is the next 3 months goal, 6 months goal they're trying to achieve through
yeah,
this product? That
yeah,
is one. If you are in a large company, I think there might be a buyer persona in your company as well, right? Who you are selling to.
yeah,
Let's say head of marketing, for example. Maybe your company also has a head of marketing wherever you're working. Try to get a 30 minutes on their calendar and ask questions about their KPIs. What are the challenges they face currently and all of that, so that you can chalk out a plan, which can help them do their KPIs better. Maybe
correct.
these are few things which is on my mind at this point of time for newbies,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And I think this is
Good.
typically, how we also, like, wherever I've worked, I've tried to structure at least SDRs that were mapped to me, that training or onboarding in a certain way where they get, hands-on experience of a customer conversation. And
Mm-hmm.
then they also, sit with a customer success manager to actually understand, okay, what value have you been able to give to them.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that's a great starting point for them to get like a concise view of what the product is doing within the industry.
Makes sense. Now that we spoke about what all to do before starting the prospecting, let's talk about how much time to invest, because this has been a debatable topic as well,
Yeah.
right? How much time should I invest on prospecting? Let's say in a day or in a month. If you break it, let's break it down for a day, right?
So I think the best practices that I've sort of incorporated for myself and for
Mm-hmm.
people that I have trained is that Monday is my prospecting day.
Okay.
So, and it of course also depends on the kind of targets that you have. So, let's say if you have weekly targets, you have monthly targets, you have quarterly targets, how is it that you design your entire week to sort of make a plan for that particular time period?
Hmm.
Actually, spend my Mondays into prospecting.
Okay.
I want to generate new leads on Monday. I want to find the right people within those leads that I would want to
Mm-hmm.
reach out to for the rest of the week or for the next week. I usually plan a week in advance, and I think that's the right way to go about it. But if
Okay.
somebody is new and is just starting out, Mondays, you reach out to anybody, nobody is going to pick up your calls, nobody is going
Yeah.
to respond to your emails, nobody is going to respond to your LinkedIn DM. So you take
Hmm.
that time out, sit for a couple of days and not just a Monday, when you're just starting out. Start with a list of 50 companies that you would want to reach out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this number, of course, changes based on the average ticket value of your product also.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes maybe 50 is a huge number, sometimes 50 is a very small number. But again, we're
Hmm.
talking about SaaS sales right now, so I'm assuming it's not going to be a cheap product to sell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So I think start with 50 companies, create a list of 50 companies that you would want to reach out to, at least
Mm-hmm.
select 3 to 5 people from those companies that you would want to start your outreach with.
Yeah.
I personally feel a top down reach out system works better.
Mm-hmm.
So I would first want to reach out to the marketing head. The marketing
Mm-hmm.
head may not be the right person, but I know he or she is the decision maker.
Yeah.
And more oftentimes than not, the marketing head then tells me, okay, you know what? Hi, Kavya, thanks for reaching out to me. But the right person to evaluate this project would
Hmm.
be XYZ.
Got it.
So why don't you set up a meeting with that person and then see if, there's a fit, and then we'll recircle. So a top-down approach on, and, like when you're also prospecting, creating an
Mhm.
Excel sheet is an SDR's Bible. When you're not regular with doing that, after 10 days, if not more, there will be a ruckus because you will have nothing to report,
Hmm.
right? So I think this
Yeah.
great starting point is start with 50 companies, 5 people, 5 POCs from those companies, from each company, and then
Mhm.
start your outreach with a top-down approach.
Got it. I think top-down approach is a win-win situation because let's say you reach out to the head of marketing, as you said. One thing, okay, you might not get a response or something there. Second thing, you anyways have your plan to reach out to other people. But what if that person sees your email or picks up your call and says they might direct you towards the right decision maker
Yeah,
on the technical side as well, right? So
correct.
it's a win-win situation that way. Okay, so now let's say cold calling. So we know we have made a list, right? We know the people. Is there any sort of best time versus worst time kind of thing for cold calling as well that you follow?
Sure, for sure. After a lot of trial and errors is, where I figured out that, अच्छा, okay, this time to calls उठेंगी नहीं, and this time to 100% उठेंगी.
Uh-huh.
Mondays is probably the worst day. I think Monday should work, for a first time connect. So
Mhm.
if I've created a list on Mondays, I think my idea should be to, connect with or everybody on my prospect list over on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And if I've received an invite acceptance, just send them a hi, hello DM without an agenda so that they know who you are.
Hmm.
I wouldn't want to send them a message saying, hey, this is Kavya and I'm from XYZ company and I feel that, this product would make sense. No, you've
Hmm.
accepted my invite. I don't want to sound overwhelming. I would just like to, acknowledge the fact that you've accepted my invite and it's really nice connecting with you. This is what I would use my Mondays for. I would also use my Mondays for to create my cadences,
Okay.
across or on emails. I usually use a 4-step email drip campaign and I
Mhm.
personalize it based on industries and based on different ICPs as well. So it's not a
Okay.
one solution fit all sort of like an email cadence. I create 3 to
Mhm.
4 email cadences based on, all of these factors. The best time for a cold call is a Tuesday evening, if you ask
Mhm.
me, a Wednesday morning, a Wednesday evening.
Mhm.
Thursday all day works extremely well. And
Okay.
Friday, second half, nobody will.
Yeah.
So, and even during the day, right? I know for most Indian companies, 10 to 11 is always a daily catch up time.
Hmm.
11 to 1 o'clock is your sweet spot.
Yeah.
So on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, the 11 to 1 p.m. window works extremely well in terms of the percentage of connected calls. Right?
Makes
And
sense.
I
Yeah. I
usually,
think
yeah,
what I was saying was knowing when to call plays a prominent role, then randomly dialing and getting
yeah,
stuck in that loop of saying people are not responding.
yeah. I mean, super easy excuse also to come up with, honestly, if the numbers are hitting up. But yeah, I sort of divide first half for these days for new reacher and
Mhm.
my second half, which is typically from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. for my follow-ups, right? That's when people are, a little relaxed. That's when they go out for those walks and they might be available to pick up your calls, right?
Hmm.
When you're ending your day, have they have things that they're done with and they have the bandwidth
Yeah.
to connect to you and maybe listen to you, if not for 10 minutes, but for 5 minutes for sure.
Yeah. So you were saying a while ago about SDRs being bombarded with a lot of things without giving clarity, right? So I feel one of the parameters over there is also about the input metrics, right? So there are a lot of things being tracked. Some are not justified at all. Why it is being tracked, right? Okay, so let's break this way. So what do you think are the right metrics to track on the input side?
Correct. I think just from the lens of aiding them to perform better, right? There needs to be tracking on the kind of lead sheet one that they have built. Does
Okay.
that lead sheet have prominent names, companies that would be a good fit? One. Secondly, to have a check on the lead sheet. Secondly, also check, and I would only want to stress on checking on these input metrics once if the output metrics are a problem. But what needs to be checked at the end of the day is how many meetings have you set and how many qualified meetings have you set. And in order to learn from the best performer, also analyze how many calls has that person made or has reached out to that has translated into meetings and then a qualified meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you also want to identify what are the best practices and want to sort of implement it across. Right. So, in my last company, I saw two of the SDRs that were mapped to me, top performers week on week, solid
Mm-hmm.
meetings. And when I say solid meetings, these are like really big names that, an 8-year professional experience wala SDR is also struggling with. And these are
Okay.
both two new freshers.
Got it.
Top performers week on week, and everybody is just trying to understand how are they doing it. Because the kind of
Mm-hmm.
meetings that they were also setting weren't just that, hi, this is what my product is, and I think this would be a good fit for you. So, let's have a chat, and my AE would like to come and show you how you can benefit from this. No. They had a bunch of questions that would ensure me as their AE whether this meeting is relevant for me to take or not. Right. So that's where the exchange, the mutual exchange, the bridging of gap between an SDR or an AE also comes into the picture.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah. What are your
That's a
thoughts?
good point.
Yeah,
You were talking about SDRs and AEs, right? So I also want to know. I think most of the issues exist because of lack of expectations between both, right? So end of the day, AEs and SDRs have to work together.
correct.
AEs should know how has this lead been qualified, right? And why are they here and all of that. And there should be a proper KT that should happen, right? So what are your thoughts on this? Because I see friction to an extent, right, between SDRs and AEs. So how can we resolve that, or how can we make that collaboration, create wonders?
I just feel that the sales team has a DNA of interdependency.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't acknowledge that, because sales professionals in themselves are very selfish people, they're
Yeah.
driven
Yeah.
by numbers, their motivation is numbers, their motivation is targets, and they're earning an amount of incentive at the end of the day. So they're very, very selfish
Yeah.
professionals. But because they're so interdependent between SDRs and AEs, they really don't understand the importance of collaboration there.
Hmm.
In my personal experience, where I've seen is, that my SDRs are lagging behind or are giving me meetings that eventually at the end of the day do not make sense to me. I
Yeah.
sit with them and I run mock meetings with them, which basically
Okay.
mirror the kind of conversations that I've had, why it hasn't worked and how can they navigate around it.
Hmm.
Because they're not on that, as not exposed to that aspect of sales, they're absolutely unaware of what sort of qualifying questions should they be asking before
Yeah.
handing over a meeting to an AE. And that's where
Hmm.
the gap is. An AE
Yeah.
will always tell his or her manager that my targets are not getting fulfilled this quarter. I'm not going to hit my target because I don't have a pipeline.
Hmm.
Why do I not have a pipeline? Because I'm not getting quality meetings. Why am I not
Hmm.
getting quality meetings? My SDR doesn't really know the definition of a quality meeting. And that's my
Yeah.
problem to solve, or his or her manager's problem to solve. But somebody needs to solve that problem.
Hmm.
And there has to be a war room. It's very important.
Yeah.
And we've seen, whenever we've had these war rooms, for lack of a better word, is just exchange of information that at the end of the day is very, very helpful to both the parties. Right?
Hmm.
And that's when you redesign your pitch. That's when you refine your pitch with more qualifying questions. And that's what gives you better meetings, it's better outcome, better pipeline. Of course, then I think that's a stepping
Yeah.
stone to, you being able to meet your target.
Yeah. I think AEs also working together with SDRs makes more sense than complaining, right? So I mean, complaining wouldn't get us anywhere. So it's better to work together. There should be a good feedback mechanism. I think that would also
For sure.
add a lot of value.
For sure. And I think this shouldn't take, a lot of time as well. I think if you take out maybe 30 minutes for 2 days in the entire week, this can solve your problem within 2 weeks.
Hmm.
You take the first week to just identify problems. Then you work on those problems. You run mock calls with your SDRs. Won't take more than half an hour. And then
Yeah.
the next week you recoup to figure out whether this has helped or not.
Makes sense. Yeah. Okay. So AI, right, is the buzzword now, right? So how can someone, leverage AI? Let's say in their current workflow only, like whatever they have set already, the cadences or, the flow that is already set. How can someone leverage AI? Is there any sort of tool that would make the work much more easier for them from your experience?
So I think in workflow automation, yes, of course, is where we can use AI to basically analyze that if this is my list of prospects and
Mm-hmm.
these are the 3 channels that I am utilizing to reach out to. In my
Mm-hmm.
experience of 8 years, of course, AI is still very new. I have never used AI.
Mm-hmm.
Call me ignorant, but
Mm-hmm.
I haven't ever felt the need to use AI. But yes, where I've used AI is on my note takers. So
Okay.
I'm very old school like that, where
You're right.
every meeting I go to, I write.
Got it.
However, in case of virtual meetings where, conversations require more involvement and I'm
Mm-hmm.
skipping to make notes, that is where, I've taken the help of note takers. And then
Yeah.
this transcribe my meetings, and then that helps me sort of, to create an MOM at the end of the call.
Hmm.
But when we talk from the perspective of an SDR, right? I was actually having a conversation with the director of this huge manufacturing company that was trying to basically figure out, how to frame his entire lead generation process. Right?
Mm-hmm.
He helped me out with a few templates that his team was using to reach out to
Okay.
their prospects. And when I read them, I said, this is a very sorry state. Your out
Mm-hmm.
your cold call script or your email script, it sounds extremely robotic. I would not
Okay.
respond to that. I would just probably read it and forget about it. But though a good starting point would be if your SDRs can tell ChatGPT that, hey, this is what my company is, this is what my
Mm-hmm.
prospect list is. Can you give me a 4 sequence drip email campaign as an inspiration? And
Yeah.
I said, although I'm very against using that because I just feel sales is a very human,
Hmm.
profession. But I think that would be a good starting point for for your SDRs to also understand the tone of
Hmm.
how should you be writing an email. Don't bombard it with features. Don't bombard it with what your company has done. Nobody wants to listen to that.
Yeah.
Break it down into 4 or 5 lines, sort of like an introductory email,
Mm-hmm.
where you outshine the benefit instead of the features that you have. Right. So I think that this
Yeah.
is where personally is where I have used AI. But I would like to know from you, how have you incorporated AI, in your day to day?
Yeah. So I think Perplexity has been one tool which is of which I use the most because of the control it has over the data that's available all over the world.
I agree.
So easy to do competitor analysis, easy to position our differentiators when we position our products. So Perplexity is one go-to tool. ChatGPT is like a buddy,
Yeah.
like for brainstorming, right?
Yeah.
So
Correct.
I use ChatGPT a lot for brainstorming. I have tested all like ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude.
Hmm.
I know that Claude is better for writing
Correct.
somehow. This is what I have figured out. ChatGPT is good for brainstorming. The GPT-5 is fine as well. Gemini is really good for in-depth research and all of that,
I'm yet
right?
to
If you
try.
really,
Yeah.
yeah, Gemini is like, if you want to have a conversation with a high IQ person and understand that person's opinion on certain things that you are doing so that you can take some tips from there and make it better, Gemini has always worked out better.
Interesting.
Apart from that, daily use, yeah, I mean, note takers
Correct.
are very helpful, even though I also write down a lot, right? I use one notebook a month that just goes off,
I think we're
right? So I
probably the last generation that's going to do that.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So note takers are there. Then there is one really nice tool which I have been using, which is called Notebook LLM from Google. Okay, so this is also a free tool. So how I use Notebook LLM is, let's say there is a book which I have to read, and then there are 5 YouTube videos which I have to refer to, and I have to come up with certain ideas or something. So Notebook LLM works in such a way that you put everything over there as a source. I put that 5 YouTube videos, I put that one book PDF copy, and then I chat with Notebook LLM on what I want to know, because I don't want to read a 500-page book.
Yeah.
Or a report or whatever it is, right? So I ask questions and then it gives me suggestions on this is what is mentioned in the book and all of that. So that's a useful tool for learning, right? To improvise my learning, I use Notebook LLM that way. So that's a helpful one. There are many tools. Like I've been using Gamma PPT for my PPTs.
Correct. Same.
Right?
Yeah. I use that.
Just a prompt. Yeah. So there are many such tools as
Yeah.
well. But these are some of the major for brainstorming. I am also against, AI copy paste kind of mechanism, because I see my emails also, too many emails, and everything looks AI generated. It's very easy to find out the
Correct.
AI language, right? So in between all of this, if a very good human email comes in, a very simple, normal language kind of email, I would definitely open it and read it, right? So I'm also not a fan of, AI emails, those copy paste and
Yeah,
all of that. But
absolutely. I think it just makes you seem lazy, right? Makes you seem less interested in you trying to reach out to a certain person, right? And
yeah,
that person can smell it right away.
exactly. And everyone is bombarded with a lot of AI emails these
Correct.
days. It's not like
Correct.
you are the only one doing it. So I think more human, genuine emails, uh, those genuine conversations, those genuine lines is what matters the most, according to me. For me, at least, that has been working. I remember one particular case where, a account of mine where that person was not responding because he was busy with something and all. And I tried all possible emails, calls, he was not picking and all. So then I didn't know what to do. Then I thought like, okay, old days, like, college days and what we used to write letters to impress girls and all of that. I used to write letters to my wife, right? So I thought, okay, let me write a letter. Maybe that's a human connection. So I wrote a letter, took a photo and attached it to an email and sent off. And I got a response within 5 minutes.
My God, I love that. I love that. I think prospects love sense of humor. And I think I've also done something very similar on these lines. There's a very important person within that very big company that I had been trying to reach out for a while. It had been about 2-3 weeks, like I tried reaching out, calling, DM, email, WhatsApp. Nothing seemed to have worked. I did get like a few responses here and there, but never an intent to probably connect and, like have a conversation.
Yeah.
Then when I had absolutely given up, I sent them a GIF. This Rose in Titanic when she had turned old, and the GIF says it's been 84 years, right? Send that GIF, and I just left it at that. The next 5 minutes, I get a response saying, "Ha ha ha! Hey Kavya, I'm so sorry. Okay, you know what? Are you free next Wednesday at so and so time? I know to just come down."
Yeah, I think, see, life is difficult in general for everyone.
Yeah.
It's difficult for the prospects as well. Too many people are trying to seek their attention, their wife, kids, reportees, upper management, so many people. And I think if you make someone smile, to an extent, they like you somehow. If you make someone smile, it works. Yeah. So yeah, there are many things like this which can be tried though while you are prospecting.
For sure.
Okay.
I think one thing that has worked wonders for me while prospecting is actually video prospecting.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people, I think in India, sales are doing that. But every time I've tried that and I've tried to make it under 90 seconds, it has always gotten me a response.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
There are tools like Loom,
Loom,
Vidyard, Tela.
Vidyard,
Yeah,
correct.
so many tools.
I think
So people can use that.
prospecting any which ways is a very tough job. Like you can't show your personality to the prospect versus an A, who can actually go up and meet the prospect and, build a relationship there. But for SDRs, it's even tougher. So, like how can they also make the other prospect feel that, okay, this is a person, this person is smart, and maybe I would want to have a conversation. And I think video prospecting is a great way to personalize cold outreach as well.
Yeah. No, that's a good one for sure. Even in my current organization, we were not using it too much, but recently I had a conversation with my manager and I told him we should start using this.
For sure.
This has worked out wonders in the past.
Agree.
Okay, so let's talk about the prospecting rituals, right? I remember talking to you earlier as well, where you said, success rate in the meetings, the meeting bookings has been more, for people who have worked with you and all. So, what are some of the good practices they did so that their conversion was more when it comes to meetings?
Some great question. I think the first piece of starting to, get a higher number of qualified meetings is to
Mm-hmm.
have your data ready. Don't just build your data on a day-to-day basis or on a week-on-week basis, because based off on your targets, right? Just give you an
Mm-hmm.
example of the last company where I was working at. They were supposed to report weekly meetings of X number of qualified meetings in a week.
Hmm.
They would start with an entire month's of lead sheet from the
Okay.
get-go, and they would have, if not five, at least three people from every company that they would want to reach out to.
Hmm.
What worked for them is also designing their outflow methods, right? Their outflow outreach workflows.
Okay.
On, like I said, Mondays would be cold outreach via a LinkedIn connection or an
Mm-hmm.
introductory email, or we would limit it to that. And on Tuesdays, they would start calling so that the people that they had reached out to a day before
Mm-hmm.
be aware of who this person is, and this call
Yeah.
hasn't just come out of the blue.
Hmm.
I think what made a huge world of a difference in their numbers versus other SDRs that we had in the team was the pitch, was the
Okay.
30 seconds of conversation that they were having. I remember there
Hmm.
were times where they were very, very new at the company, and I would make them call their prospects in front of me so that I could give them real
Okay.
feedback, right?
Got it.
There were,
I have done this. Yeah.
yeah. And there have been times where they've been talking and the prospect is turning them down. And I have
Hmm.
drummed in between that, hey, sorry, I just could not resist, but I just happened to be in the same room that, you were
Mm-hmm.
speaking to this person with. And let me tell you how this is going to work. Right. And I've flipped that conversation 180 and I've gotten that meeting for my SDR. Now, what has happened is I have gotten my meeting and my SDR learned a new way to navigate through this objection.
Exactly.
Right. And I think we've done all of these things. A lot of my trade secrets I've shared with my SDRs.
Hmm.
I've told them, okay, this person is following you. Maybe this is not the right time. And maybe this is a lose lose situation right now because you've done your everything and they're not interested. Just leave them a WhatsApp voice note,
Got it.
right? Or, and every time they've gotten a response that, hey, I'm so
Hmm.
sorry, I haven't been able to speak to you, but how about we set up a 30-minute call, on so and so day, right? So
Yeah.
try out these new things because eventually, if you're going to feel that, oh, this, and you're not, I would not call it unprofessional. I would just call it creative.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
and because you've spoken to this person and this person has told you, oh, you know what, I'm busy right now. I can't have this conversation. They already know that this person has their number. So it gives you the
Yeah.
right to, try and be creative around all the data
Right.
points that you have already.
Hmm.
So
Makes sense.
ways of outreach, creative ways of following up, and the pitch in itself. From somebody in the other team would be like, hi, I'm XYZ, I'm calling from XYZ, and this is what we do for companies
Hmm.
like XYZ. That's not going to work. Sounds very, very salesy.
Yeah.
How do
Yeah.
you flip the script? If I were to speak to you, I'd be like, hey, hi, Vijeth, this is Kavya. How are you doing? I pause.
Yeah.
I would not keep talking.
It would sound like someone who's known already, right? That's how that's how the response is,
Yeah,
right?
that's
If
how you
someone
break
says
the
my name
ice.
and
And
yeah,
I would tell them, talk to your prospect like you would want to talk to somebody that you would want to take out on a date,
yeah,
right?
makes
Because
sense.
it's a friend, it's unhinged, it's a little too unhinged. But if it's somebody you want to take out on a date, this is someone that you want to impress, but also don't want to
Hmm.
sound desperate,
Exactly.
right? So there's a fine line there.
Yeah. No, that's a good tip. Many people can implement, and I'm damn sure they'll get some good responses and meetings as well because of this,
Yeah.
right? So now we have been talking about prospecting a lot, right? For what, like last 30, 40 minutes. okay, now at what quantity should we do this? Like, there is always this debate on, quality over quantity, as you
Yeah.
know, right? So where does quantity come into the picture? Where does quality come into the picture, according to you?
I think it's very simple, right? Somebody who hasn't been trained well,
Mm-hmm.
who hasn't been given enough information before they can actually go and ace will always depend on quantity,
Hmm.
right? And anybody can identify whether they're a salesperson or they're not, right?
Yeah.
If they have a problem solving mindset, you don't have to be an
Hmm.
introvert or an extrovert to be a salesperson. You
Mm-hmm.
need to have a problem solving mindset, which is what we call a sales mindset,
Yeah.
right? And you have to be shamelessly confident.
Hmm.
So, like they say that you have to be stubborn to be a salesperson, because after hearing so many no's, how do you still bounce back? Is how
Yeah.
stubborn,
Yeah.
like a successful salesperson should be,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, I think quality will come into the picture where the company would want to invest in their SDRs, right?
Hmm.
And eventually, at the end of the day, we can have like thousands on debates on this, but eventually what matters is numbers.
Yeah.
Now, typically, if somebody who's been well trained, who's given everything that he needs to, start with their outreach or start with their actual work on a day-to-day basis,
Mm-hmm.
they would want to be held accountable for the number of qualified meetings they've set. Now, if they've
Yeah.
said that with 20 calls versus 100 calls speaks volumes about the kind of salesperson and the potential that they have in the career,
Hmm.
right? Now,
Yeah.
with quality, what also comes is the flexibility of trying new ways of reaching out versus,
Yeah.
somebody who's, they haven't aced their cold calls, but they're still making 100 calls day after day, day after
Hmm.
day, and then eventually they feel demotivated, right? And that's why you see
Yeah.
a very high attrition rate in SDR, specifically within the entire
Hmm.
sales cycle,
Yeah.
right? And I
Makes
think,
sense.
yeah, and I think this is what I feel about, it's always has to be quality. If it's quantity, you're not utilizing the capability
Hmm.
of the person in the picture.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this has a lot to do with the mindset part, right? Like, you see prospecting as a skill, then how do you focus on it? Is you focus on upskilling yourself, learning all the, best possible ways to do it and all of that. If you see it as a kind of, okay, this is something I have to do for the sake of it, then maybe you won't find or you won't go in that direction where you find creative ways to do it. So I think it has
I
a lot to do
agree.
with the mindset as well.
Correct. For a rookie, they cannot build
Hmm.
that mindset from a get go.
Exactly.
It took me 2 years to build that mindset. And that's also because I had great mentors. When I had just started
Hmm.
working, I was working at this startup, which is now doing very well. Um,
Hmm.
and the founder used to sit with me. And
Hmm.
I used to be very hesitant in making calls. And I used to be like, oh, he's the CMO. How can I just call him? And
Yeah.
my founder would sit with me and be like, he doesn't know who you are. He doesn't know how old you are. He just wants to hear
Yeah.
you because you have a solution for his problem. He would sit with
Hmm.
me. He would do mock calls with me. Imagine the founder sitting and spending so much time with an SDR with 0 years of
Hmm.
experience, but they
Yeah.
invested that time in me, right?
Right.
4 months, I was leading a team of 4 other SDRs.
Yeah. I think this is also important on how the enablement is done, right? For when we say sales enablement, it is not just like, okay, I hired some SDR, I trained them and done. No, enablement is from all departments. Like, SDR might be the person reaching out and talking to people, but how is the marketing team treating SDR? How is the sales team treating SDR? How is the founder treating the SDR and adding value to that job, right? So that enablement comes from all directions. And when someone is enabled in a right manner, I think, as you said, in your case, in 4 months, you are able to manage a team of SDRs, right? These are the things which would happen.
Yeah, and you need to seek out that enablement too. Like everything
Hmm.
can't be
Yeah.
handed to you, on a silver platter. You need to
Yeah.
seek that out for yourself.
Seeking for help.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also important, right? Yeah. I think we've had an amazing
Yeah.
conversation so far
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
prospecting, right?
Yes.
Okay. So before we conclude, right? Let's conclude with, okay, give me 3 tips. Okay, let's say I'm a new SDR. I've started recently, maybe 1 month, 2 months. Okay. Give me 3 tips to start prospecting well. And that's how we conclude this.
Correct. I think the first step is sit with an existing AE and attend at least 5 mock calls in your first week. Tip number 2 is sit with the customer success team and break down at least 5 case studies from different industries that are already there. And tip number 3 is run at least 5 mock calls from 5 different members in your team before you start your cold out.
Great. Yeah. I think, yeah, it will definitely help. Definitely, it will strengthen the fundamentals, right?
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, it would definitely. Great. Thank you so much, Kavya, for your time today.
Always.
And yeah, in the next episode, I think we should come up with another topic which we would discuss.
For sure.
And I hope today's episode adds a lot of value to our audience here.
I really hope so.
Fine then. Thank you so much. And I'll see you in the next episode then.
All right. Bye. Have a nice weekend.
Bye. You too. Bye.